Hypergamy 1. Men are officially obsolete in 2026. Is that true? No, of course not. But things are getting pretty tough out there. Okay, so if you were following internet discourse about intergender dynamics, relationships, and dating and men and women and so on, somewhere back in the mists of time, maybe about 2012, 2011, whatever, you might have heard this word hypergamy, okay, which very basically, it's an Evo Psych term, but it very basically means that women prefer to have the highest status partners they can. Women like to, in the old usage, women like to marry up, okay? So that is to say they would like to marry somebody of a higher social class than them, probably somebody richer, probably somebody taller, somebody who's obviously good looking, who can protect them, maybe more intelligent than them, blah, blah, blah. I mean, effectively, it means that they are looking for the best possible specimen that they can get. And the theory was that if she's with a guy who is, ticking some of the boxes, but then a better guy comes along, then her innate hypergamy might cause her to cheat on the original guy, or even just to leave him and start a new relationship with the new, better guy, okay? So that was the thinking. Is it true? Yeah, kind of. But it's also true of men as well. Men are also hypergamous, all right? It's ridiculous to claim anything other than that fact, all right? If you had the option between two different women you could have a relationship with, and one of them was stunningly attractive in your view, and the other one less so, which one are you going to choose? You're probably going to go for the one that you consider to be the most attractive. Is that not yet another expression of hypergamy, but from the male side? I would argue that it absolutely is, okay? The reason, though, that this is less acute as far as men are concerned is that men, on average, tend to have fewer options, all right? Men, or at least they feel that they have fewer options. So, whereas with women, it's problematic for some men because women are often likely to be able to actually pull the trigger on some of those opportunities because guys, guys are very driven by looks, and if she's quite attractive, then he might well be inclined to, entertain her at least for a while. So it feels very dangerous for men because you've got a girlfriend and then some really, really hot guy comes in the room and you think, oh my God, what is she looking at him? What if she makes a signal to him? What if he likes her back? It feels a very clear and present danger to men. Now, again, I would say it's not because men are these wonderful, virtuous, noble creatures who would never do something like that. It's just that most men don't have the opportunity to do it, okay? Because if a stunningly beautiful woman walks into the room who is arguably better looking than your girlfriend, are you going to be able to just stray and go off and cheat with that woman? Probably not a lot of the time, okay? So that's why it feels like this is more of a problematic aspect of female nature than male nature, but it isn't really. It's just that men often don't have the wherewithal or the value in the dating marketplace to actually make anything happen. So it's almost moot. Their hypergamy is almost a moot point. It doesn't matter because they can't exercise it anyway. So a lot of the discourse was around the fact that women liked the best value guy they could get, as if this was a surprise to anybody, as if this was a revelation that nobody had known about before. I mean, it's mind-blowing when you think about it that this became such a big deal. This became such a huge buzzword, back many years ago on the internet, because I mean, God, all you have to do is pick up a book or attend college, when you're a kid, or go to university, or go to a club, or watch a movie, or I mean, you don't have to be some kind of expert in human nature to observe that yes, women on average do tend to like, guys who maybe they're really good looking, or maybe he's got, an amazing physique, or maybe he's really wealthy and he's got an amazing lifestyle. I mean, it's not rocket science, guys, okay? However, the argument is that modern technology unlocked hypergamy, or put it on steroids, let's say. And there is some truth to that, okay? There is some truth to that, because I mean, it's a confluence of different things actually, because it's partly, the marriage becoming less of a popular option for people. That comes into it as well. It's partly social ideas sort of loosening and casual sex becoming commonplace and somewhat encouraged in the culture, and the falling away of organised religion, the falling away of, Christian morality, let's say, all of these different things. Plus, the social media platforms and the dating apps have meant that people can meet up from all over the world. Okay, so it's no longer the woman who is quote unquote hypergamous is no longer just limited to the options in her small town, right? So imagine you were living in a village, okay? You were living in a small town and you were the best guy in that small village, okay? For whatever reason, you were the best looking guy, you owned the local hotel, you owned a castle or something else just outside the village, so you were the richest guy, or a combination of those things, and you had an amazing physique, okay? And you were incredibly rich. So imagine you're ticking all of those boxes in that small village. In the context of that small village, back in the day pre-internet, it's very unlikely that she is going to stray from you, because how can she move up, right? You are numero uno, okay? You're in pole position. You're at the head of the you're at the apex of masculinity in that community. But now it's a different story, because now all she has to do is open Instagram or a dating app if she's being naughty and she's secretly on a dating app, and suddenly you're not the best show in town, because town doesn't mean anything anymore. There's guys all over the world flooding her DMs, messaging her, reaching out to her, offering her weekends away in Paris or the south of France or Italy or blah, 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 okay? And probably some of them are better looking than you. Probably some of them are richer. Probably some of them are more interesting than you, or have better social skill, or have higher status in society, okay? You are no longer the brightest, shiniest possible option. And so her hypergamy, which was once somewhat constrained by circumstances, by situations, is now completely unconstrained, okay? It's only constrained by her propensity to act on it, and how long she's happy to sit bed rotting until a better quality guy than you comes along, okay? This is all the theory, by the way. I'm not saying that this is necessarily an entirely accurate representation of reality, but this is the idea. I would say there is something in all of this, okay? I think that it gets massively oversold to us, however, that women will always act out on these opportunities. So we hear these stories about, women being flown to Dubai and, yacht parties and all this kind of crazy stuff. Is the average normal woman really taking up all these opportunities, if she's even getting them? I would say the answer is no. I think it gets massively exaggerated on social media. I think there are instances of this kind of stuff happening, for sure. I mean, sugar relationships have also exploded, okay? So yeah, that kind of thing is definitely happening. But is it commonplace? Not really, Is infidelity higher now than it was before? I don't think so. But at the same time, it's not really about whether it is or it isn't. It's about, is it easier now to facilitate? And the answer is absolutely yes. Is it theoretically possible, possibly easier, let's say, for her to find a higher value guy than you? Yes, okay. Is she definitely going to act on that? Not necessarily. It varies from person to person. So if we go back to the beginning, the bit at the end of it, so hypergamy is 1, men are now officially obsolete in 2026. Are they actually obsolete? Well, no, but they are on notice, okay? You are on notice. And this is if you're in a relationship, if you're married, if you're trying to get into a relationship, with all of this stuff, you are on notice, okay? That's the reality of it. And the reason is because this enhanced competition has come into play, because this huge tidal wave of DMs, of options, of opportunities has come into the sphere. Okay, the zone has been flooded, all right? And so you can't, I suppose, feel as safe as you used to feel. I think that's what it comes down to. I think guys, and guys still cling to this, you know, there's an idea of, oh, well, I'll just get a girlfriend. You know, I'll just get into a relationship, or I'll just get married. And I think this might be one of the reasons why when we ask guys, when we start to work with them, you know, what's your ideal outcome for all of this? And a lot of the guys, people will be surprised, but the guys aren't saying, oh, I want to have this James Bond lifestyle where I'm flying off to different countries and I'm meeting all these different women and it's going to be this big party. A lot of the time what the guys are saying, yeah, I just kind of want to get a girlfriend, really, you know, kind of want to get a relationship, which is fair enough. No problem with that if that's what you want. But I think possibly one of the reasons that they say that is yeah, they would like that, but they also, on some level, think that offers safety. They also somehow think, I'll just find this nice girl, this high quality woman, in inverted commas, and I'll be with her, and it's going to be harmonious, it's going to be great, and my problems will be over, and I won't have to worry about this nonsense anymore. And that is a miscalculation, unfortunately, okay? I don't say that with any, you know, enthusiasm or glee, but as we often say, the idea that you just get into a relationship and then, okay, that's it, I can put my feet up now, the hard times are over, I'm home, baby. It doesn't work like that, right? I mean, actually, if you think you've got problems when you're single, try being in a relationship, okay? It's magnified tenfold, because relationships are a constant process of negotiation and compromise, and knowing when to compromise and wondering when you've compromised too much, okay? It's a very, very fine line, and there's often a sort of quiet power struggle within relationships where the power is passed between the two players, and that can be problematic, and you can easily get on the wrong side of that equation if you're not careful. But this isn't a video about how to conduct a long-term relationship. That's material for another time, maybe, although nobody really knows the answer. But, you know, what I'm saying fundamentally is that getting into a relationship in itself is not going to save you, okay? It's not this safety haven where you can just relax and put your feet up and go, okay, job done, that's it, I left the game. It just doesn't work like that, all right? And as I say, in a way, it's harder than the project of being a single guy and, you know, meeting different people and all that kind of stuff. It's actually harder to be in just a monogamous relationship with one person. Not that I'm saying that relationships and monogamous relationships are not incredibly valuable and enriching and can fill the soul, and that love is not real and all that kind of stuff. Of course it is. I'm just saying proceed with caution. But about this notion rather of being on notice, the problem is that wherever you are on the scale, whether you're just dating, whether you're casual, whether you're into something serious, whether you're living together, whether you're married, the spectre of hypergamy is always there, okay? Not because she's a bad person, not because she's evil, not because you're defective, it's just how it is, okay? And here's the thing, like I said before, it's not even that she's necessarily going to act on it. It's not even that she's definitely going to do anything, because many women are principled, okay? And they have boundaries, they have ground rules. They are not going to do that, okay? They are not going to just randomly step out of the relationship, you know, because some guy with a 12-pack comes along. It just doesn't, it's fantasy. It doesn't really work like that in real life in all cases, although that can happen as well. The issue for you, though, is you never really know. You know, people talk about vetting, which is a weird term, isn't it? But this idea of like, you know, before you go into a relationship, you've got to vet the person. You've got to figure out, okay, is this person going to be good for me? Are they going to do the dirty on me? Are they going to kind of let me down, all right. And yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, do it. I mean, it would kind of be silly not to at least attempt to do that, but it's not really foolproof, all right? It's not really foolproof because you can't really, it takes a long time to properly get to know somebody. And also, it's extremely hard, I would say, to understand what this person, how this person is going to behave under pressure, all right? It's extremely hard to know. You could spend even a couple of years with somebody and you don't know precisely how they're going to react when the pressure really kicks in, because you can't replicate those circumstances. And when I say pressure, I mean, again, this is an issue with relationships because they bring about all different forms of pressure, which are multifarious. Different things could hit at the same time. It's very unpredictable, okay? You could lose your job and be ill. So you lose all your income, and what if you need someone to look after you, right? What happens then? And what if you guys have been sort of arguing because she wants a child and you're not sure yet, so you've been sort of arguing about that, and there's a lot of tension underneath the surface anyway, and then you get really ill and you've got no money. What happens there? Is she going to stick around? I mean, I don't know. You'd hope so, wouldn't you? But you don't know. You don't 100% know because you've never seen her in that situation before. She's likely never been in that situation in her life before either, so even she couldn't tell you. And there's three different dynamics at play in that imaginary situation. And like I say, there are multiple different versions of this kind of thing that you could think of or could happen to you in life that you just can't predict. So the idea of vetting somebody, as much as sure you should try, but that's not foolproof. So the issue that you've got is you don't really know. And I think this gets to the heart of this. The problem in 2026 is not so much that men are obsolete, it's that the ground on which they are walking has been fundamentally destabilized, because you don't really know what her intentions are. You don't really know what she might do or what she might be capable of under certain circumstances. But what you do know is that all of the brakes are off as far as society's concerned and societal expectation, because nobody cares anymore. In fact, if anything, if she leaves your ass, she'll probably get applauded for it. If she cheats on you with a guy who is deemed to be better than her friend by her friendship group, then she'll probably get applauded for it, right? You kick that loser to the curb, okay? And look, I don't say this with any disrespect to women. Conceivably, this could happen the other way around too, all right? If a guy presents it to his friends that he's not happy in a relationship and then he gets together with somebody else, he could also be applauded by his male friends for that action, okay? What I'm saying is that fundamentally the brakes have been taken off in terms of social censure for both men and women, okay? So you don't really know what she's going to do. What you do know is that she, and like any woman in 2026, has almost infinite options. So she could do anything, okay? She could decide to leave you for some guy who lives in Monaco. She could. I mean, is she going to? Probably not, but you don't know, all right? And that is the fundamental problem. You don't know. So you're not obsolete, you're hanging on in there. But the old certainties, if there were any old certainties, and even in the old days, there was never certainty about what would happen, because divorces still happen, infidelity still happened, people still split up, whatever. But it's just that the environment and society in general is very much geared up for it now in a way that it wasn't 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, 50 years ago. All right? That's the problem you've got. And this is why we always preach the message of improving your social skills, getting out there, talking to a lot of people so you become adept at this stuff, and also self-transcending in all areas, okay? You need to become not just the best version of yourself, you need to become a better version of yourself in all of the key areas, okay? That is physical, health, intellectual, money, etc. All right? I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope this was something to think about, but maybe you disagree. I don't know. Maybe you think I'm wrong. So write your comments below, let me know what you think. Do subscribe to the channels, get on my email list as well, there's a link below. And if you are interested in coaching, we've got a number of international immersion events coming up this year across Latin America, across Europe, and the United States actually, Eastern Europe. So drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, include your WhatsApp details, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye bye.